All right. Hey, welcome, guys. So last time we talked about exponential functions, and today we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that and talk about exponential growth and exponential decay. So things like the rabbit situation we talked about last time, that would be an example of exponential growth. Or if it was the number of trees being harvested or something like that, that would be exponential decay, things like that. So we're going to give some real world examples of some of this stuff. So let's get started. Exponential growth. Here is the equation for exponential growth. Y equals a parentheses 1 plus r to the t power. And here it explains what each of those things mean. So y represents the final amount. A is the original. Just like yesterday, we talked about y equals a and then b to the x. We said a was the initial, where it started. In other words, it's the original, where it started. R represents the rate of growth. So last time we called this the multiplier. This whole thing. R is going to tell us at what rate, essentially, we're multiplying. It's 1 plus because it's increasing. If it was decreasing, as we'll see later, it'll be minus. And then it says t represents time. So that's still how many times it's being multiplied. Just like before we said number of times multiplied. It's still kind of like that now, except for it's in terms of time. So let's look at an actual example here. It says annual sales for clothing for a clothing store, 270,000. So that's what it's starting at. That's the original. That is the initial is 270,000. So that goes right here. And are increasing at a rate of 7%. Now the key here is we have to write 7% as a decimal. So we always move it 2 places to the left. So that becomes 0.07 because you moved it 2 places. So 1 plus 0.07. And then after 3 years, that's t. Now I just simply plug that into my calculator. Let me show you what that looks like. All right. So here, I'm going to plug what I just have into my calculator. So I'm going 270,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.07 close parenthesis to the third power. Hit enter, and I get 33,000 or 330,761. So that's my new amount. So it's 330,761. And we'll say and 61 cents. All right. Next one says the population of a school is 2,200. So that's where it's starting. And is increasing at a rate of 2%. So again, 2%, you write that as a decimal, move it 2 places, 0.02. After 6 years, where will it be at? So again, let's plug that into the calculator. All right, so I've got 2,200 parenthesis 1 plus 0.02, close parenthesis, to the 6th power. When I hit enter on that, I get 2,477. So after 6 years, according to this, after 6 years, there will be almost 2,500 students. And since we can't have, and since people are not going to be a fraction, we'll just leave it as 2,478. That's why it's an approximation. That's what that wavy equal sign means. Okay. Now this last one, the value of an antique vase is 200. Again, that's my initial. So initial is this. It's increasing, so it's 1 plus 8%. So we write 8% as a decimal after 12 years to the 12th power. So looks like this. 200, 1 plus 0.08 to the 12th power. And I get 503. So in other words, it'll be worth roughly $503. If it continues to increase at that rate, it'll be worth roughly $503.63. All right, so that's what exponential growth looks like. Another form of exponential growth is called compound interest. So again, as it explains, A represents the balance after 10 years. So how much is in the account after 10 years? So compound interest would be things like if you're investing in a mutual fund or a Roth IRA or things like that. Things where you're planning for your retirement or investments and things like that. You would want compound interest because the more it compounds, the more you gain. So in this case, A represents the balance. So how much you've earned total. P is the principal. Principal just simply means the original amount, how much you started with. So if you invest, $5,000, 5,000 is your principal. Or if you took out a loan for 5,000, that would be your principal. Either way. R represents the annual interest rate expressed as a decimal. N represents the number of times interest is compounded each year. And T represents time in years. So N, if it said compounded annually, that only means one time a year. If it said compounded every 3 months, that would be 4 times a year. If it said compounded monthly, that would be 12 times, etc. So let's look at these examples here. It says you started off with $20,000 invested. So again, that's my initial. Oops, 20,000. And it says 1 plus, now looking back up here is R, my rate. So my rate is 3%. So I need to write that as a decimal, 0.03. And it's compounded annually, so that just means one time a year. So 1 and after 8 years. So in this case, it's going to look like 200,000. Now we have to be careful this. Parenthesis, 1 plus. Now I got to use parentheses again. 0.03. Now in this case, dividing by 1 isn't going to change anything. But if it were something other than annually, this is what we need to do. So I have those set of parentheses here around my divide sign, and then I need another one here to the, now I put parentheses around this, to the 1 times 8, close parenthesis. And it shows that I would have 25,000 or 250. Oh, I put in 200,000, not 20,000. That's why. Makes a big difference. That's more reasonable. So 25,335. So that means if by investing 20,000 into here for 8 years, you will have a total of 25,335. Now that's not what you earned, that's what you now have total. So in other words, you earned $5,335 over the course of 8 years. Not bad. Now this one, start with 35,000. Invest 6%, so 0.06 over, and instead of this compounded monthly, so that happens 12 times. So it's going to be 12 times 10. So again, it's very critical on how you plug this into your calculator. So it looks like this, 35,000 parentheses, 1 plus, now I need another set of parentheses here, 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12, close parenthesis, and then I need another close parenthesis because I have parentheses around what I just divided as well as the big 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12 to the 12 times 10 power. And again, I need that in parentheses because otherwise it will raise it to 12 and then multiply the whole thing by 10. But I want to raise to the 12 times 10, or in other words, 120 power. Hit enter. And I end up with 63,678. So in this case, yeah, I would have, again, that's my total. 89 cents. That's how much you would have earned. Should have put $sign there as well. Okay. Last example. Oh, right. This one. We're gonna do the same thing, except we're gonna plug it in the whole way. So we're going 35,000, 1 plus 0.08. This says it's compounded quarterly. So quarterly, 4 quarters. So how many times does that happen in a year? 4 times. 4 quarters in $1 quarterly to the 5 times 4 power. So again, plug this into my calculator. So I have 35,000 parentheses 1 plus parentheses 0.08 divided by 4 close parentheses to the 5 times 4 is to the 20th power. I'm just going to simplify it. So in this case, I end up with $52,008. 16 cents. Okay, last thing, exponential decay. It says y equals 1 minus r to the t. Notice the only difference between exponential decay and exponential growth is the plus and the minus sign. Growth has a plus sign. Decay has a minus sign. That's the only difference. So in this case, it says population for school is 800. Again, that's my initial. and is decreasing at a rate of 2%, so 0.02. Again, the key is that that's a minus sign. What's the school going to look like after 4 years? So I go 800 parentheses 1 minus 0.02 close parenthesis to the 4th power. So in 4 years, it's going to go from 800 to 738 students. Approximately. Okay. Last one here says the bird population of forests is 2,300. Start with 23. 1 minus 0.04. After 10 years, what's it going to look like? So I go 2,300 1 minus 0.04 to the 10th power. And I get 1,529. So it'll be approximately, well, it's going to go from 2,300 birds to 1,529 birds if it keeps decreasing at 4% over the course of 10 years. That's what that's saying. All right, that should get you a good start on 9.2 exponential growth and decay. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you guys.